Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive.
It's great to be back.
Today, we're shifting gears a bit from our normal topics.
Yeah.
We're diving into the world of wine,
Sounds delicious.
specifically the life and legacy of Robert Mondavi.
Ooh, Napa Valley royalty.
Exactly, and we're basing this deep dive on excerpts from the book Robert Mondavi.
Excellent choice.
Yeah,
I think we're in for a treat.
I think so too. You know, his story is pretty incredible. I mean, from the son of Italian immigrants to a global wine icon.
Yeah, you know what always strikes me about Mondavi is that he he wasn't content with just making wine.
Right.
He wanted to elevate American winemaking, prove that Napa could be right up there with the best in the world.
And he did it all, starting his own winery at like 53 years old.
Talk about a late bloomer, but what a bloom it was.
Yeah, but to really appreciate his journey, we need to go back to the beginning, his childhood.
Ah, yes, his roots.
Exactly. He
Yeah.
grew up in Lodi, California, surrounded by vineyards owned by his Italian immigrant parents.
It wasn't all idyllic vineyards, though.
Oh, right, Prohibition.
Exactly. Can you imagine trying to make your mark in the wine world during Prohibition?
It seems impossible.
Mondavi had to be resourceful. He was supplying grapes to
Yeah.
families making wine at home.
Wow. So he was like keeping a tradition alive when it was against the law.
You could say that those were his rebellious winemaking years.
I like that. But even after Prohibition, things weren't always smooth sailing.
Oh, definitely.
He bought Charles Krug Winery, which sounds like a dream come true.
You'd think so.
But it led to a family rift,
Family business can be tricky.
and Mondavi decided to strike out on his own.
That takes guts to leave a successful family business in your 50s and start from scratch.
Yeah, it shows just how much he believed in his vision,
He saw something special in Napa Valley.
especially into Calon Vineyard.
Ah, yes, to Calon.
So, 1966, the Robert Mondavi Winery is born,
A pivotal year.
and he chose to Calon for a reason.
He was after the terroir.
Terroir.
Back then, Napa wasn't what it is today, a world-renowned wine region. But Mondavi, he recognized that Tucalan had something unique.
The soil, the climate.
It all comes together to create those distinctive characteristics in the wine.
He was convinced that Napa could be as good as the famous regions in France and Italy.
It was a bold statement.
He was like a vineyard visionary.
Absolutely. And he didn't stop there.
Oh, yeah. The innovations.
Cold fermentation for white wines, French oak barrels, malolactic fermentation for reds.
He was a pioneer.
These aren't just trendy techniques. Let's take cold fermentation.
Okay.
Before Mondavi, most California white wines were missing something.
Missing what?
A certain vibrancy.
Ah.
By chilling the fermentation process, he was able to preserve those delicate aromas.
Like what kind of aromas?
Think citrus blossom, honeysuckle. Things that would be lost otherwise.
Wow, I never knew there was so much science behind keeping things cold.
He revolutionized California Sauvignon Blanc.
Interesting. And what about French oak barrels?
It was a radical move at the time.
Really?
American oak was the norm.
So why French oak?
Mondavi was tasting wines from Bordeaux, Burgundy. He saw the potential.
The complexity.
Exactly. Those subtle notes of vanilla spice toast, it added a layer of sophistication.
It was a statement.
He was aiming for world-class quality.
Okay, and malolactic fermentation, what's that all about?
Sometimes red wines can have this sharp acidity.
Yeah.
Malolactic fermentation softens that acidity.
Makes it smoother.
Adds roundness, complexity, especially to Cabernet Sauvignon, one of Mondavi's favorites.
So each of these techniques was deliberate,
He was crafting wine, not just making it.
and that led to some iconic wines.
The Cabernet Sauvignon Reserve, made with those prized to Calon grapes, it became an instant classic.
Of course, but what about Fumé Blanc?
Ah, now that's an interesting story.
Because he basically rebranded Sauvignon Blanc.
He gave it a French-sounding name, introduced. Oak aging changed how people thought about the grape.
He elevated Sauvignon Blanc.
And then there's Opus One, the wine that became synonymous with Mondavi's ambition.
Opus One, I've heard whispers about a legendary partnership behind this wine.
This is where it gets exciting. Mondavi teamed up with Baron Philippe de Rothschild.
Wow. Chateau Mouton Rothschild, the legend.
It was a groundbreaking collaboration. Mondavi, champion of Napa Valley Rothschild, representing centuries of French winemaking tradition.
Two worlds colliding.
They wanted to create a wine that merged the best of both worlds.
California fruit and Bordeaux elegance.
It was a statement that California could stand on the world stage.
And the result was spectacular.
Absolutely. But Mondavi's vision extended beyond Napa Valley.
Oh, he didn't stop there.
Not at all. He had a global vision.
So more partnerships,
He partnered with the Vichon family from the Rhone Valley,
bringing their expertise to Napa.
and he teamed up with the Frescobaldi family from Tuscany to create Lucy della Vite.
An Italian connection.
He was a global ambassador for wine.
Okay, so we've covered Mondavi's early years,
Mhm.
his winery, his innovations, his partnerships.
It's clear he had a huge impact.
But how did he change things on a larger scale? What's his lasting legacy?
That's a great question. And to answer it, we need to go beyond the wines themselves
Explore his philosophy, his impact on Napa Valley.
and how his family continued his work.
So buckle up. We're just getting started on this deep dive.
This is going to be good.
All right, so we've talked about Mondavi, the visionary, the innovator, the global ambassador.
He really was all of those things.
But even the most ambitious journeys, have turning points. And for Mondavi, that came in 2004 when he sold his winery.
It was a big moment for Napa Valley.
Yeah.
I mean, here's this icon, this pioneer, and he's selling the winery he built from scratch.
Yeah, it makes you wonder what happens to a legacy like that, when it changes hands.
Right. Does it fade away?
I mean, I imagine it must have been tough for him letting go of something he poured his heart and soul into.
Especially for someone like Mondavi who was so connected to his winery.
So what happened to the Robert Mondavi winery after the sale?
Well, it was purchased by Constellation Brands.
Constellation Brand.
Yeah, a large international company, and there were definitely some concerns.
That Mondavi's vision would be lost.
Exactly, that the wines would become mass-produced generic.
Just so did they turn it into a giant wine factory?
Actually, no Constellation surprised a lot of people.
Really?
They recognized the value of the Robert Mondavi name, the legacy, the commitment to quality.
So they didn't just slap a new label on it.
Not at all.
Wow.
They've continued to produce those iconic wines that Mondavi was known for, the Cabernet Sauvignon Reserve, the Fumé Blanc.
They kept the classics.
And they've maintained that focus on innovation, investing in new technologies, and sustainable practices.
So they've stayed true to Mondavi's vision.
In many ways, yes. They've preserved the winery's architecture, the beautiful grounds, the visitor center.
It's still a destination.
Absolutely. But what's even more interesting is what happened with Mondavi's children.
Oh, right. His legacy extends beyond just the winery itself.
They inherited their father's passion for wine, but each of them forged their own paths in the industry.
Okay, now that's what I call a legacy. It wasn't just about one man. It was about a family dedicated to winemaking. So tell me more about what each of his children is doing.
Well, there's Michael Mondavi, the eldest son. He founded the Michael Mondavi family estate.
Carry on the family tradition.
He's very focused on sustainable farming, organic practices, minimizing the environmental impact of winemaking.
So he's taking his father's commitment to the land even further.
And then there's Tim Mondavi. He established Continuum Estate, a boutique winery up on Pritchard Hill.
Boutique winery, what does that mean?
It means small lot, handcrafted wines that express the unique terroir of that very specific place.
So he's all about that connection between the land and the wine.
He's focused on the artistry of winemaking.
Interesting. So you have one son focused on sustainability, the other on small batch artisanal wines.
It's like they're representing two sides of their father's legacy.
I like that. And what about Mondavi's daughter, Marcia?
Marcia Mondavi Borger. She's taken a different path. She plays a vital role in the Robert Mondavi Institute for Wine and Food Science at UC Davis.
Wow, so she's involved in education?
And she's a driving force behind the Robert Mondavi Foundation, which supports all sorts of educational and cultural initiatives.
So she's carrying the torch in a different way.
It's amazing how each of the Mondavi children has found a way to honor their father's legacy.
They're not just making wine, they're continuing a tradition that goes beyond the vineyards.
Absolutely. But now that we've talked about Mondavi's wines in a general sense,
Yeah.
I think it's time to get specific.
You mean it's time to open some bottles and actually taste what we've been talking about?
Exactly. Let's experience the Mondavi legacy firsthand.
I'm all for that. Where do we start?
Let's begin with the Robert Mondavi Cabernet Sauvignon Reserve, the wine that put Napa Valley on the map.
Okay, the flagship wine.
It's made from grapes grown in those legendary Catalan vineyards, the same vineyards that Mondavi himself championed.
I'm ready to be transported to Napa Valley.
This Cabernet Sauvignon is a classic expression of both the grape and the region. You'll get those bold flavors of blackcurrant and cassis,
It sounds delicious.
with hints of cedar and tobacco. It's a beautifully structured, wine-firm tannins and a lingering finish.
But it's not just about power, right?
No, there's an elegance and finesse to it that speaks to Mondavi's commitment to balance and complexity.
It's like you can taste the history in every sip.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, what's next on our tasting journey?
I'm ready for more.
Let's move on to the Fumé Blanc, the wine that revolutionized how people thought about Sauvignon Blanc.
Ah, yes, the rebranding the oak aging.
This is where Mondavi's innovative spirit really shines through. Remember how we talked about cold fermentation?
Yeah.
You can taste the results in this wine. Bright, vibrant acidity aromas of grapefruit, lemon zest, white peach.
Like a burst of sunshine.
And then there's that subtle hint of oak from the barrel aging, which adds complexity and texture.
It's amazing how he took a simple grape and made it into something so special.
He had a gift for that.
Yeah.
We've savored the Cabernet Sauvignon Reserve. We've experienced the revolutionary Fumé Blanc.
It's been quite a journey.
It's time for the grand finale.
Opus.
The legendary collaboration between Robert Mondavi and Baron Philippe de Rothschild.
This is where two worlds collide.
California fruit meets Bordeaux tradition.
I can't wait to try it. What makes Opus 1 so special?
This wine is a testament to the power of collaboration, of blending different perspectives and techniques to create something truly extraordinary. It's a blend of Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Cabernet from Petit Verdot, and Malbec,
Wow, that's a lot of grapes.
all meticulously sourced from prime Napa Valley vineyards.
So what does that translate to in terms of taste?
Rich, concentrated flavors of black cherry, plum, blackberry, layered with notes of spiced vanilla cedar.
It sounds incredibly complex.
It has a velvety, smooth texture, firm tannins, and a long, lingering finish. This is a wine that can age for decades.
Wow, a wine for the ages.
It's meant to be savored, enjoyed over time.
So with a legacy as grand as Robert Mondavi's, is there anything left to say?
We've explored his life, his wines, his family, but there's one more layer to uncover.
Oh, there's more.
The philosophy that underpinned everything he did.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Let's dive into the heart of the Mondavi philosophy. Okay, so we're diving into the Mondavi philosophy, the heart of it all.
It's more than just, techniques or business strategies.
Right.
It's a way of thinking about wine, about life, about the connection between people and land and culture.
So it's deeper than just, good grapes make good wine.
Much deeper.
What are some of the core principles of this Mondavi philosophy?
Well, it starts with that word you mentioned earlier, terroir.
Terroir.
Mondavi was a huge advocate for the idea that wine is an expression of place.
Right.
He believed that every vineyard, every plot of land has a unique personality.
And that's reflected in the wine.
Exactly. It's about capturing the essence of a place.
But wasn't Mondavi also a champion for innovation?
Oh, absolutely.
How does that fit in with respecting terroir?
That's a great question. Mondavi believed that innovation wasn't about manipulating nature.
Right.
It was about understanding it, enhancing it.
So using those techniques we discussed, like cold fermentation, French oak barrels.
Yeah. Those were tools to help the terroir sing, not to mask it.
Like he was a composer and the vineyard was his orchestra.
I like that analogy.
But the Mondavi philosophy, it goes beyond just the technical stuff, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
What else is there?
Mondavi believed that wine was a vital part of culture,
Oh,
a catalyst for bringing people together.
for sharing a meal.
Exactly, for sparking conversations, for creating experiences.
He wasn't just making wine, he was creating a culture around it.
He saw wine as a bridge between the everyday and the extraordinary.
And that brings us to his commitment to sustainability.
Yes.
It's hard to imagine someone who so fully embraced the joy of life, not being concerned about the environment.
He was ahead of his time in many ways.
So how did that play out in his winemaking?
Mondavi understood that the health of the land was directly connected to the quality of the wine.
It all comes back to the terroir.
Exactly. He was an early adopter of environmentally friendly practices, using renewable energy, conserving water, promoting biodiversity.
It wasn't just a trend for him.
It was a deep-seated belief.
And that's a legacy that continues today.
Through his children,
Michael to Marcia.
they've each embraced that commitment to sustainability in their own way.
It's really quite remarkable.
It is.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of Robert Mondavi, what's the one thing you hope our listeners take away?
I hope they understand that Mondavi wasn't just a successful winemaker.
Right?
He was a visionary who transformed how we think about wine in America.
He put Napa Valley on the map.
He showed us that California could produce world-class wines.
And he did it with this relentless pursuit of quality and innovation.
And a deep respect for the land.
And he did it all while embracing the joy of life, the art of winemaking, the power of shared experiences.
He's a true original.
So the next time you open a bottle of Mondavi wine, remember the man behind it?
His story, his philosophy.
take a moment to appreciate the terroir, the craftsmanship,
The layers of flavor and history.
and most importantly, share it with friends, family, loved ones.
That's what Robert Mondavi would have wanted.
Cheers to a life well lived, a legacy well earned.
And to the enduring power of wine to bring people together.
Cheers to that. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration